All right, class. So today we're going to finish up the guided practice problems. You're only going to submit the problems that we have assigned to you. You're only submitting the problems that we do that I assign or that we do together. Okay. So far you should have this all the first page already completed. Okay. The second page should be completed as well. Okay. The third page should be completed. All right. The fourth page, we did the top part, and you completed the rest of these on your own, okay? You completed the rest of these on your own. Any questions about the ones that you completed? Does anyone need to see any of these worked out again? I'll pause for the calls just to give you a moment to think. All right, so just to recap, and then I'm going to move to the next section. To write these as decimals, to write the decimals as fractions, the only thing that you're doing here is the number that is behind the decimal is the number that you put on top as the numerator. And then we look at the place value. If there's one place behind the decimal, then the denominator is going to be 10. If it's two spaces behind the decimal, the denominator is going to be 100. If it's three spaces behind the decimal, the denominator is going to be 1,000. If there are four spaces behind the decimal, the denominator is going to be 10,000. Okay, and you just keep adding zeros. All right. Okay, so let's move on to the second. Let's move on to the very next section where we're writing a fraction as a decimal. So to write a fraction as a decimal, all you do is divide. So here, let's write divide because that's all we're going to do is divide. We're going to use our calculator to divide. So please go ahead and take out your calculator so that you can divide. When you divide, let's write this out. You're going to say the numerator, you're going to type in the numerator first. Bless you. And divided by the denominator. Please write that in. Numerator divided by denominator. Please write that in. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and let's knock this out. So we got 7 over 10. And to change this fraction 7/10 to a decimal, we're going to divide. So we're going to clear our calculator. 2nd plus 712. That's how you clear the calculator. 2nd plus 712. And we're going to type 7. That's our numerator. Press the divided by button right here. 10. And then enter. And that gives you 0.7. Okay. The next one, we have 1/5. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to type in the 1 first, the numerator, divided by 5, which is the denominator, and press enter. And that gives us 0.2. Then we're going to do 2 divided by 5. So we got 2 divided by 5. Press enter, and that gives us 0.4. And then we're going to do 3 divided by 4. And that gives us 0.75. And I'm going to do one more, and then you're going to do these on your own, okay? 7 divided by 8. And that gives us 0.875. And you're going to do the next 3 or the last 3 in this section on your own, okay? I'm going to pause for the calls. I'm going to give you about a minute. All right, so let's go to the next section. Then in the next section, it says, write these percentages as decimals. So here, the first step is to locate. Please write this down. locate decimal, and then second step is to move decimal 2 spaces to the left. Okay, move decimal 2 spaces to the left. Okay, so let's do some examples. This is how this works. The first thing is to locate the decimal. If you don't see the decimal in the number, it's automatically behind the last number. So this is what you have here. 3 is here. This is the decimal. You're going to move the decimal 2 spaces to the left. So that's 1, 2. And you need a 0 to fill in this space. So you get 0.03 as your decimal. Okay. Let's do the second one. Again, locate the decimal. If you don't see the decimal in the number, then it's behind the last number. So what you get is this, 30, and here's the decimal. You're going to move the decimal 2 spaces to the left. So that's this way, 1, 2 times. So what you have is 0.3 or 0.30. Okay. 25%. Again, you locate the decimal. We're going from a percent to a decimal. So if you don't see the decimals behind the last number, so what you have is 25, and this is the decimal here. You're going to move the decimal 2 spaces to the left. So that's 1, 2. So this is going to give you 0.25 is your decimal for 25%. All right, I'm going to skip down and let's go to this one because it looks a little different from the others. Again, you locate the decimal. The decimal is here. You're going to move the decimal 2 places to the left. That's 1, 2 places to the left. So the decimal is now going to be here. And this is going to be 0.175. Okay? I want you to do the others. Give you a couple minutes to get those done. Any questions about what I did in this section? Okay, so I want you to go ahead and get these done. We'll pause for the calls. All right, let's do the next section. All right, it says, write these percentages as fractions, okay? So to write the percent as a fraction, the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to change it to a decimal first. So we're going to come. Okay. Remember, we've already done this part to change it to a decimal. All we did was we moved the decimal 2 times to the left. We located the decimal, we moved the decimal 2 times to the left. Okay. And then after you get your decimal, you're going to write it as a fraction. The top number is going to be the number behind the decimal, just the number sign. And the bottom number is going to be the place value. Remember, we did that on yesterday with the place value. Go back and look at that real briefly. See, if it's 1 space behind the decimal, the denominator is going to be 10. If it's 2 spaces behind the decimal, the denominator is going to be 100. 3 spaces behind the decimal, the denominator is going to be 1,000. And 4 spaces behind the decimal, the denominator is going to be 10,000. And you're going to reduce the fraction. Okay? All right, so let's do this, okay? So again, the first step is to change this to a decimal by locating that decimal. If you don't see it, it's automatically behind the last number. So this is going to be 20, and the decimal is there. Now we're going to take and move the decimal 2 times to the left. So we got 1, 2. So this is what we have. We have 0.2. You don't need the 0. The 0 is just a placeholder. So now you write it as a fraction. The top part of the fraction is just the number behind the decimal, which is 2. So we put 2 here. The denominator is going to be the place value. It's 1 space behind the decimal. That's the 10th place, so it's going to be 10. Now we're going to reduce. Remember I told you how to reduce in the calculator? You reduce just like this. You say 2 divided by 10. So we got 2 divided by 10. And press the math button and press enter 2 times. Math, enter twice. And that's 1/5. Okay. And let me make this look better. That looks sloppy there. Okay. Let's do the next one. Same thing. Change the decimal by moving the decimal 2 times to the left. So the decimal in this percent is behind the last number if you don't see it. So this is 75 and the decimal's here. You're going to move the decimal 2 times to the left to convert from a percent to a decimal. So that's 1, 2. So this gives me 0.75. Now you're going to write it as a fraction by putting the number that's behind the decimal as the numerator. So this is 75 on top. It's 2 spaces behind the decimal, so the denominator is going to be 100. Now we're going to reduce. So again, to reduce, we say 75 divided by 100. Then we press the math button, which is right here, and we press enter 2 times. Enter, enter. And that's going to be 3/4. Let's do 5%. We change it to a decimal, the percent to a decimal, by locating that decimal. If you don't see it, it's automatically behind the last number. And you move it 2 times to the left. So that's going to be 1 space, 2 space. You put a 0 here as a placeholder, so that's going to be 0.05. Okay. Now we write it as a fraction by putting the number that's behind the decimal as the numerator. So it's 5 behind the decimal. So that's going to be my numerator. The place value is 2 spaces behind the decimal, so that's going to be 100. It's 2 zeros. And now you're going to reduce that. So you say 5 divided by 100. Press the math button and press enter 2 times. 1, 2. And that's going to be 1/20. Okay. 30%. Do this one. And then you're going to do these on your own, okay? So we do the same thing again. We change it to a decimal by moving the decimal 2 spaces to the left. If you don't see the decimal, it's automatically behind the last number. So now you're going to move it 2 places to the left. That's 1, 2. So what you have is 0.30 or 0.3. Okay? Now you're going to change this to a fraction. The number behind the decimal, you write 3. It's 1 space. So it's 10. Okay. For some of you that have written 30, you did 0.30. This would be 30 over 100. And that still would have reduced to 3 over 10. Okay. And if you want to check to make sure it is reduced, you type in 3 divided by 10, math, and press enter 2 times. And you'll see that it's already reduced. Okay. All right. I want you to do these on your own. I'm going to pause for the calls. All right. So here we're going to write the decimal as a percent. So to write the decimal as a percent, the first thing we do, you need more time? Okay. The first thing we do is locate the decimal. After we locate that decimal, we're going to move the decimal 2 spaces to the right. And then lastly, we're going to add the percent sign. Got to have that percent sign to show that it's a percentage. Okay, so locate the decimal. The decimal is here. Okay. You're going to move the decimal 2 spaces to the right. 1, 2. It's right here. So now what you have is 25%. Okay. Same here. We locate the decimal. It's right here. You're going to move this decimal 2 places to the right. That's 1, 2 times this way. We're going to put a 0 as a placeholder here. So what we have is 50%. Okay? And I want you to do these 2 on your own. Locate the decimal, move it 2 spaces to the right, and add your percent sign. I'm going to give you a couple seconds on that one. Okay, it says write these fractions as a percent. So we're going to go from a fraction to a percent. So the first thing that we do is we're going to change the fraction to a decimal. Oops, sorry, y'all. And how do you do that? You divide, just like we did previously, okay? Then the second thing that we're going to do is we're going to move the decimal 2 spaces to the right. And then we're going to add that percent sign. That's what we're going to do. These are our 3 steps. All right, so here we're going to divide. So let's take our calculator so we can divide again. We got 1 is on top, so that's 1 divided by 10. Press enter, and that gives us our decimal 0.1. So we get 0.1 as our decimal. Now we're going to move the decimal 2 spaces to the right. So 2 spaces to the right is this way. 1, 2. Okay, good deal. All right, so it's 2 spaces to the right. Make sure we add a 0 as a placeholder. So this is going to be 10. And don't forget about adding the percent sign. It's 10%. Number 2, same thing. We're going to divide. So take our calculator and type in 1 divided by 5 and enter. So that's going to be 0.2 as our decimal. We're going to move our decimal 2 spaces to the right. So that's 1, 2 spaces to the right. We need a 0 as a placeholder. So now all we have to do is add our percent sign. This is 20%. Okay. Now we're going to divide for the third one again. We got 9 divided by 10. That gives us a decimal of 0.9. We're going to move our decimal 2 times to the right. 1, 2. 0 is a placeholder. Don't forget to add your percent sign. That's 90%. This last one, on this row, we're going to divide again. That's 3 divided by 4. And that gives us 0.75. We're going to move the decimal 2 spaces to the right. 1, 2. This is going to give us 75%. Okay, now see if you can do this row on your own. Guys, if you have questions about anything, please do not hesitate to ask. I'm going to go ahead and stop the video. If you need to watch it again, please watch this video again.